This whole situation started when I was a teenager, but I'm in my late 20s now, and I'm a female, by the way. It was one small conversation that I had completely forgotten about until about 2 years ago. But in the past 2-ish years, more things have happened to me that made me really think about that short conversation. I was about 13 and my mom and I had just moved back in with my grandma, where my uncle was already living in. At the time, his friend was living with us as well. He was only staying there for a few months, and I never knew why. I just knew he was staying there. But when my mom and I moved back, and one day, while the friend was out of the house, my uncle sat me down and told me that he didn't want me to be alone with his friend, and that I needed to call him if I found myself alone with his friend. Only about a week after my mom and I moved in, my uncle kicked his friend out. I was young and didn't think much about the conversation and had completely forgotten about it. About 2 years ago, my uncle very suddenly, unexpectedly passed away. And after he passed, his friend came back into my grandma's life. I think my grandma kind of missed my uncle's friend as a replacement for my uncle. And at first, everything seemed okay. It was fine. But after a few visits, I started feeling weird around him, and I didn't know why. Then I remembered that conversation my uncle had with me. But I tried to move past it because it was over 10 years ago and that we had that conversation. I really wanted to forget it. And this guy, he's a married man, and he's married to a lovely woman, so I thought maybe things had changed. He made a lot of dumb jokes that I never found funny, but were always harmless. Like, I would come home with a bowl that had snacks in it, because my coworkers and I, we share our snacks with each other. And he would ask where his share was. Small stuff like that. Then he made some jokes about what I was wearing, and I felt a little uncomfortable, but I was used to my family making similar jokes, so I brushed it off. Things like, "Oh, who are you trying to impress going out like that?" And "You must be fighting off men left and right," and other similar comments. I started to avoid leaving my room at that point and when he would come over, but sometimes interactions with him were unavoidable because he would be here when I was getting home from work, or he would come over without warning. Another bit of backstory. I'm engaged to a man who lives in a different country, and when I had gone to visit him, I had fallen in love where he lives. On top of that, it's more affordable and overall much safer for us to live there, so we're working on me moving there with him. Well, I don't tell my uncle's friend anything because he makes me feel uncomfortable, but I know my grandma shares everything with him, so he knows about the situation. And he has on more than one occasion asked me why I was moving, and I fell in love with somebody, and that's my fiance, and I absolutely love him. So my uncle's friend will always come back with, "Oh, of course, it's for a boy," and has also made comments along the lines of, "Oh, I guess you're in love. I just don't understand, but whatever." Like, he acts bothered that I'm engaged and moving away. But again, I would just hide myself away in my room and constantly convince myself that I was reading into things and overreacting. I also knew I couldn't say anything to my grandma about it because my family is one of those, if you don't want the comments, you need to cover up. And I'm not allowed to wear shorts around male family members because what if they look at me and have bad thoughts? It's all my fault. Now, all of these small instances were very uncomfortable, but I just ignored them, hid in my room, and did what I could to avoid situations. Then something happened one day, and now I just feel icky. I went into work, and my coworker told me how yesterday a man fitting the description to a T of my uncle's friend came into my work in the afternoon after I had already left, asking about me. And he knew details like what I looked like, where I lived, even details about my move to another country. And he made comments about being my uncle's friend. Now, I didn't hear any of this as I had already left for the day, but my coworker is a very trustworthy person and doesn't just come up with stuff for the fun of it. She will even be the first one to call someone out on their BS if she catches them in a lie. So I trust that she is telling me the truth. But he was saying how ever since my uncle passed, he has been trying to see me more and more because he just cares so much about me and he sees me like his daughter. That comment alone weirded me out because I barely interacted with this man and I avoided it at all costs, so why does he feel that close to me? He also started talking at length about my move to another country, and he wouldn't leave this topic alone. He just kept going on and on about it. He doesn't get how I could just fall in love with someone so far away, and how I should just stay here and find someone here to fall in love with, and other comments basically about how he doesn't approve of my move and be with my fiance. I didn't tell him where I work, but I know my grandmother tells that guy everything, and it weirds me out that he came into my workplace looking for me and then talking at length with my coworkers about my choices in life and my future, how he doesn't like it when I don't converse with him. I just can't wait to get out of this place, out of this house, far, far away from this guy.